Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
I had to mute the one that is on live. Welcome, welcome.
Bienvenidos.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Monday Night Live.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. We are Bible Way Ministries International, located at 894 Constitution Road in Southeast in the city of Atlanta, Georgia. We're a group of progressive believers who love the Lord, and we're here on Monday night with Monday Night Live to chop it up about anything that's on your mind. And my team is, you know, my team is here. I'm grateful for that. And anybody else that will join us on Zoom, as well as those who are streaming live on Facebook, we welcome your comments in the chat. So we're coming to the end of the presidential season. The politics, early voting is available. And so if you want to weigh in on the election, weigh in on your plan to vote, on your thoughts about that, or any other thing in the media, on the news, you are welcome to do that. And grateful for the shout outs. I just saw Laverne Bolden checking in from Northeast Ohio, from the Cleveland area. Glad that you're here. I see our First Lady, Wanda Rachel Jackson Norwood, says she plans to vote. Maybe, just maybe, we will early vote together and we will video it and put that up on our Facebook page at BWMIATL. So that would be great. We certainly want to lead by example and take our souls to the polls and make a difference by executing our civic duty. Did you know in some countries that voting is compulsory, meaning that you are required to vote, and if you don't, there's a fine attached to it, like Australia, Brazil, but here we try to actually keep people from voting, make it more difficult. That's a part of the political tensions in this country that go all the way back to what we call Jim and Jane Crow and something called poll taxes, where they would provide barriers and that would prevent people of color, in particular women, minority groups, from voting. But now it is legal for us to vote, and we have a problem with those who are eligible to vote not finding the motivation to vote. But we hope that everybody will realize that your vote is your voice and your vote matters. That's why there's such an effort to stifle voting and to keep so many people from voting. So there's actually some legal action from the government in the state of Alabama because the Secretary of State there started to remove inactive voters in a 90-day period leading up to the election, which is against federal law. So all kind of tricks and games being played. That's why it's so important, I think, that we vote. And Georgia is a battleground state. Yesterday, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris visited, spent some time at New Birth Cathedral with a New Birth Missionary Baptist Church with Pastor Jamal and family there. And they continue to crisscross the two candidates for the major parties, especially the battleground states, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. So we are happy to have you here tonight and to hear anything that's on your heart, on your mind, anything of interest, anything from sports to, I know some of the Saints checked out Usher Baby. I mean, I'm sorry. Maybe we'll get a
And Stevie
Stevie,
Wonder.
give us a Stevie Wonder concert review if you don't mind.
Stevie Wonder was phenomenal. Um, he sounded like himself. No beats skipped. Phenomenal. And the largest band you will ever see. String section, choir, maybe two percussions and a drummer, or two drummers and a percussion, six background singers, keys, just every guitar, bass, just everything. Just they spread across the whole stage. It was phenomenal. One of the best concerts ever. and I would love to go again. Having said that, I'm exhausted. I've been tired. As you know, my stepdad passed, and I drove back and forth to Charlotte, one loop. I'm gonna do another loop on Friday. The point is, who leaves a Stevie Wonder concert before the last note is played? I had to, because I had to get up early and be effective at service on Sunday, and I was really tired. So I missed, I don't know how many songs. I'm gonna have to check with somebody, but I mean, I was there for most of it for sure. But it was what I saw was just, I was like, I gotta come back. I gotta try to get to see him again. But it was good.
That's good news. That's great news. I spoke with someone today, a friend from Maryland who saw him there, and she was saying the same thing. He had his band, he had an orchestra. She talked about how extraordinary it was. So I am so happy to hear that. I missed him. Centero went to see him a few years back, and she was telling me about it. So I've got to find a way to see Stevie. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Well, we're losing our legends, and I just want to,
Yep.
I saw Prince. I don't remember seeing Michael. I don't think, so a little in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that maybe you saw the Jackson 5 or something, but I don't think so. So yeah, I had to do that. I also early voted. So
Nice.
done.
Shout out, big star, big ups. So what was
Me
your
too. I got
strategy?
to
How
do
did you
that.
do it? Okay, tell us about it, Kathy.
It was quite easy. I just walked into the church up the street from where I was and walked in and got it done and walked out. Eden was with me. She walked
Nice.
and she
Eden voted too. That's even better.
and they told her she couldn't touch anything, but she could come stand there and look.
Okay. Yeah, if she was in Chicago, she would have voted. I'm just going to leave that right there.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing.
Early
Chicago
and
has,
often.
Yeah,
yeah, early and often. That's the theme of Chicago. But like people don't vote just once.
I believe they're that afraid now. So they're kind of getting the kids involved in the election process. At Nairi School, they actually told the main points of each candidate
Right.
and then had them vote. And
Yeah,
of
they've been
course,
doing that for a while. Yeah,
but actually, like they let them go in a room by themselves and do the whole voting process. Now at at Nairi School, Kamala Harris won by 79% of the vote, with the Asian population giving most of the votes to Trump. So that's kind of, I mean, that's telltale, and I think it's kind of slick in a way, because if you see where the kids are thinking, you can kind of see how the families are thinking. Or it can be, totally opposite, that they are basically looking at the facts that they've been given, and they make a decision from there.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Right, because Nairi, well, her personal thing she couldn't get past was the global warming thing. She was saying that if you can't tell that the world is changing now, she's only been here 10 years, but she said if you can't tell that the earth is changing, and she went into her whole spiel on the global warming. So global warming got her to make her decision. Yeah, so I kind of enjoyed that they at least took the time to do that. But I was
Nice.
upset this year because my son wasn't on. He wasn't on the voter roll, and we don't know why. But see, the last time he voted was the last presidential election, which means he was 18 then, and it's no reason he should be off the roll now. So 2 were still on and 1 was not. So we're still trying to get to the bottom of that, because I went day one when the polls opened. Yeah.
Well, when you find out, make sure you let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other thoughts about anything that's on your mind?
Well, I was looking at the fact that Master P was talking, and he was speaking about how as you reach certain levels in your life, levels of success, some friends have to be disconnected from. You know, even some family members, you're okay with them as long as you're saying yes. But the minute you say no, then that's when you have a problem. And I thought about one of my friend's sons play for the Houston Rockets. And his friend, one of the other rookies, just got $101 million extension contract. And I was like, oh my goodness. But if you don't know how to manage that type of money, or even to get someone to manage it for you, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just a lot. That's a lot of money to give a young, you know, young early 20s to even think about managing it.
Minister
Both,
Shannon Anderson, I know a lot of people who'd like to try. Just
well,
put that out there.
right. Well, I know my friend, both his parents, they are not together anymore, but both of them moved to Houston to make sure that they keep an eye on him. I know they can't helicopter him always because he's an adult, but at the same time, they want to be in you know, close proximity, you know, to make sure they manage his career.
Well, let's go around the horn here. We got Sister Kathy here. We got Santero. We got Elder Tanetta. We got Minister Lulu. We got Lady Wanda. What else is on you guys' minds tonight? We've had a review of the Stevie Wonder concert that was extraordinary. Do we have a review of the Usher? I'm just kidding.
If anyone would like to send me, I will gladly accept. I won't.
He's had
you know, I
multiple.
won't do any.
He's had multiple shows this week. He'll be back in December. Some of the saints have their makeup concerts in December. I mean, some of the people that we know.
Well,
I'm
one of those who.
Well, God bless your heart.
I had tickets. Well. There's a there's a but. I had tickets to the show on Friday, August 16th, but when he had to postpone to December, I got a full refund back from Ticketmaster without a problem. And I just used that money to go to the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum. So I hope that counts for something.
Well, maybe God will create some more money so you can still go in December.
Well, actually, I'm not even at. I went to see Usher in Vegas.
Las Vegas, yeah.
And that was a wonderful show. So I really wanted to see, I didn't want to see him in Atlanta, but I'm like, well, I saw him in Vegas. And since, you know, everything changed in August, I was like, forget it. I'm requesting a refund, and I just used the money to do something else.
Well, I know that one of our musical staff went just for music observation.
We got out of church yesterday, and I came down Tar Boulevard, not realizing she was at Divine Faith, and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Traffic or Kamala Harris was at Divine Tar Boulevard.
Well, it's good to know she had Divine Faith yesterday.
Traffic was
you know, I saw an interview of a person who attended her visit to New Birth who said they were actually motivated to vote as a result of the visit. So we hope that the visits have consequences that, you know, sometimes we may wonder what it means when these candidates are crisscrossing and making these stops, but hopefully it's encouraging people to go to the polls, because I think that's what's going to determine the outcome. Not all the polls and all the words, and it's who shows up. So to go and make your voice heard. So sorry about your traffic nightmare. Hopefully it made a difference.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I was sitting in traffic then to watch him work at McDonald's. So
okay. Yeah.
What was that all about? I saw that and I was like, what is happening?
Oh, probably trying to make him relatable and human between his gaffes and locker room talk and lewd remarks about Arnold Palmer. I mean, it's just his behavior is more aberrant and deranged and than probably the history of the presidency. When we look back at this and somebody puts together a narrative, it's just going to be hard to believe that it was this close. And Lord forbid, you know, the outcome that puts him back. It's just pretty amazing, pretty stunning.
Also big at the fact that Kamala worked at McDonald's in her younger days.
Yeah.
Well, I kept seeing, like, when I saw that someone on LinkedIn actually posted it, and you can tell you know, what side or what their friends, because all the people who commented were like, well, at least now we know that one of the candidates actually worked at. So I was like, is there something that disproves Kamala working at McDonald's?
No, there's not. Just
Now he's just taking opportunity to make statements that she didn't work, she didn't do it, and they're asking her about it. So I mean,
yeah, and so
that
it seemed like
yeah,
people just jumped on that, and now they're saying, well, now we have proof he did, so we don't have to worry about wondering if he did. And I'm like,
yeah.
well,
Yeah, we actually have proof. We have 34 felony conviction counts that he did some other things too. It went right over people's.
Well, you know what really gets to me this year is that I've been having conversation with lots of people, just people in the streets, out and about, and a lot of people are just not voting. I run into so many 20-year-olds that are not deciding not to vote. And I run into older people that are upset because, say, for instance, if they were voting at the church, you know, our church used to be a polling place, and because it's moved, you know, somewhere else, it's just too much. It's just too much to go, you know, to make this change, you know. And I was like, that's what they're banking on, that you get inconvenience and that you give up on voting. Yeah.
So when you encounter that, what's your response to them?
I said, I'll take you. We can go to IHOP or wherever you want to go. When do you want to go? We can go right now. They know me. I won't bust a you, but I will turn around real quick. I was on the way somewhere else, and I pulled into a polling station just like that. I have no problem with it. Anybody want me to come pick them up to vote? I will pick them up.
Minister Shannon Anderson,
it'll be running.
Minister Shannon Anderson, that offer for IHOP is pretty appealing and enticing. If you're putting that out there, I think some people who are going to already vote.
Right. Just give me a call. Just give me a call.
So one of our ministerial staff says, Sister Centero, they hate they missed Usher in Vegas. They really wanted to see that show. I tell you, we have a diverse staff at our church.
Well, is he no longer going to be? Is his Vegas thing done?
Yeah, he's on tour right now. He ended that residency. I'm sure other residencies are possible. All things are possible. We got Deacon Vincent Fife saying, good evening, Pastor and First Lady Wanda Jackson Norwood and the Bible Way family, friends, and guests. Thank you so much, Deacon Vincent Fife, for all that you do. Where would the church be without deacons? You all are the muscles, the shoulders of the church. We thank God for you as a responsible father, grandfather, and we know you made a plan to vote. You were not able to vote when you initially made the plan, but you may have done it by now. Sister Valerie Ragland is on here. She says, good evening to my Bible Way family. Good evening to you. We are praying with you and your mother. Your mother shared that her prayer request for this week, Thursday, so we're lifting her up. Ari Cunningham is on here. She says, IHOP does sound good. See, that I told you, see, Mr. Chef, you got people taking you up on that offer. Okay. Deacon Vincent Fife says that the other presidential candidate did not work. It was only a 15-minute stunt. And I can confirm it was a stunt. The people who went through the drive-through window were pre-selected. There you go. There you go.
Well, I mean, he probably pulled together his own fries, but
he did. They showed him putting the salt on the fries, like he needs some fries. Anyway, let me stop. I'm gonna leave that alone. I mean,
salt. You don't need either.
Well, you'll never get his medical records. You can forget that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's healthy. That's just going to be the answer, right? I was going to say,
but I mean, to that point, he promised to give them. I mean, he promises things, and you know, he just doesn't follow through. So
right, promises.
Yeah.
So I was going to talk about the voting. So it was really easy to do it. One thing that you know, if somebody's doing something and they really weren't determined to do it. So I'm going on vacation on Friday, right? I won't be back until the 4th. So I was like, I don't want to wait and you know have. So I was trying, let me get it
the
out
pressure
the way.
to get it done when you
right.
get back. Yeah.
So, but I was running around today and I was like, okay, I'll wait till I know the place I always go to early vote, which is the library, East Point Library. Why is the library closed temporarily? And there's no signage, there's nothing. So then I get there and it's like, oh, the library's closed. And then you have to sit down and say, okay, now you got to figure out where else is doing, because it's not your regular polling place. It's just the place you normally go. So I think sometimes some of those things you really have to be determined to go do what you need to do, because I had to search it. And when I did try to search, it was like old information, things from 2022 election. It was not an easy, where can you early vote close to me now kind of thing,
So let me give you the spiritual answer to what happened to you, Kathy. It was a trick of the enemy. But you overcame by the blood of the Lamb.
By the blood, I tell you.
The blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony. In Jesus' name, you voted.
It was a trick from the pit, wasn't it?
Deacon Vincent
like,
Fife says,
libraries now? What's going on with that?
oh, that has happened to us. We voted the Wolf Creek Lab. Well, they cut funding for polling stations. That's why the church lost our ability to be a polling station. And the same thing happened where we live in South Fulton. We used to vote at the library. They closed it. I went to vote there, and I didn't know I had a new polling place last year, Kathy. It was closed with no signage.
Wow.
It's reopened right now as for early voting, but they moved the polling place to a church down the street. Deacon Vincent Fife says, I voted last Wednesday after work, and it only took about 10 minutes. Good for you, sir. God bless you. Thank you for that witness and that testimony. See, somebody else overcame the trick of the enemy in the name of Jesus.
So we can do what we did last election. People started to post where they voted at and the wait times. Like, so if you find a place that's really, walk in ready, just let people know. And then once it hits social media, then, everybody can do what they do.
That's why I've been suggesting people seriously make a plan, because I think it will be a breeze right now for most early voting opportunities. I think if you wait until the day of, you're going to run into some wait times. You're going to run into some traffic.
I'm voting the day of.
Okay. That's a plan as well. Just pack your patience and your water. And I remember waiting in line to vote for Barack Obama for hours. There was a wonderful time of fellowship, singing, passing water and food. I mean, I still remember it. So.
Oxford in Clayton County, Lovejoy to be exact. Last presidential election, I voted the day of, and I think I was like number 2 in line. He opened at 7. I was number 2 in line. So I'm hoping to have that same experience this year.
Yeah.
Walking distance from my house.
But some people, they don't want to chance it. Anything could happen. You got people threatening voting workers and poll workers and, the glitches that can happen, this, that, and the other. But we're praying that everybody who wants to vote can vote, and that the will of the people be known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Pastor Monty, in your experience, have you encountered situations where couples that either premarital or whatever that are on totally different political, like staunch political lines, and what is your advice to them? Did they make it?
Yeah, we have some of that in the church, actually. Yeah, I have seen that. I've seen it in larger families divided. I've seen it in marriages. And I'm always fascinated with James Carville and his wife. He's the strategist that has helped elect Bill Clinton and so many other Democratic politicians married to a staunch Republican. I think it's how seriously you take it, what it means to you, the depth of the value. For some people, they can't countenance that somebody would, have a different political thought. I've seen people, successfully navigate it, choose not to talk about it or focus on it. And one of the big things going on in this election is, it's funny, and this has to do with a Democratic strategy. You're telling white women, you don't have to tell your husband who you vote for. So, I mean, and that's an effort by Democrats to, get women for different reasons to cast a vote differently than their husband might expect them to cast, or whatever. But I just think that the elections are so close, particularly in the battleground states, the toss-up, the margin of error, that the bottom line is who shows up, who goes to the poll. And I'm encouraged. I know that there are people who are saying, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't matter. I'm not, you got the naysayers, but I think there are a lot of people who are, because of different reasons, whether it's the price of insulin, whether it's a woman's right to control her body, whether it's, global warming. There are just so many reasons. Then they're the one issue people. The pastor of Saddleback Church, not Rick Warren, is retired, but his successor, it says there's only one reason to vote, and the issue that he's voting on is abortion. I mean, I think, what I'm telling people is your vote is not a Valentine. Your vote to support a candidate does not mean that you agree with that person on everything. I certainly don't agree with Kamala Harris on everything. It's a chess move for the kind of world you want to live in. And not to vote is a vote. I'm voting for the people I love and for, I think, the person whose policies will harm us the least. You can call it the lesser of two evils if you want, but for me, it's a chess move for the kind of world I want to live in. And there's a whole lot of harm happening in the world and in this nation. I think we're blind to the ravages of global warming and what's going to happen as a result of it. We're seeing it with the hurricanes. We see it in the middle of the nation with the tornadoes. We see it with the fires in the West. It's going to impact us in the pocketbook. And so there's just so many issues. And so we went through COVID, and because of the president who was in office at the time, hundreds of thousands of people died. It's like we're forgetting what happened the last time. We're forgetting the insurrection. And I just like, there's a lot of reasons, that people say, I'm not voting for this person, I'm voting for that person. That's fine. My vote is a chess move for the kind of world I want to live in. And I'm emphatic. That's why I'm voting. And even no matter who wins, I'm engaged before, I'm engaged during, I'm going to be engaged afterwards. No matter who's in office, I am. So,
well,
yeah.
you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking just thinking about what Kathy just said. It's an absolute deal breaker for me as a spouse. You cannot vote opposite parties of me. I cannot be with you. Because it's more than just putting your name on a ballot for a certain candidate. They're standing by certain things that you believe or not, for or against it. And depending on, what you're standing on with them, I just honestly, I don't see myself with the opposite. You cannot be a Saints fan and be a mate of mine. You cannot be a man against women in ministry. Like, I have strong lines, and those are strong lines for me. And politics, you have to be on my side.
Let me give you some pushback, Minister Shannon. Let me give you some pushback. So if I roll up on you and I was single and I said, excuse me, miss, what's your name? Where are you from? And can I come and possibly, can I take you out tonight? But I say, whoa, I'm thinking about voting for the other candidate. You said, no.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
I think there
All
might
right.
have been.
We could be on a date and I'm going to walk off.
I think there's some things in there she'd consider differently if some things
You
are
just
offered.
shut
I'm just
Luther
saying.
down, like Luther is out. Yeah. Yeah.
What Elon Musk is offering, why is that not considered tampering?
What's the question again? I missed the question.
I said, what are your thoughts about what Elon, what's his name? Elon Musk, whatever his name.
I think Elon Musk has the same spirit as the person he's supporting. I don't think he ever intended to give anybody $1 million for any reason. It is illegal, and I think he knows it. And there's no proof that he would actually give it or offer it. There's no concrete. He's just right now throwing it out as a pledge that if you would sign.
So far, 2 people have accepted it.
So I've not seen that or heard that, and so, but it is considered illegal. It's
So that's crazy.
Yeah. I think you kind of describe the parties involved. So in my humble opinion, I mean, yeah. So here we are. By the way, Minister Shannon mentioned the poll at her daughter's school. I did a poll among my students at Buell Heights University, and I'm teaching mostly global foreign students. My students are from multiple countries in Africa. My students are from Brazil, from Canada, and Trump won 2-1. Trump won 2-1, and I asked my students why, to explain the reasons. And I have a lot of Brazilian students, and Trump is very much like their former president Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is considered a Brazilian Trump, and many of them supported him with the same kind of personality and values that Trump had, because they saw him as the quote unquote Christian candidate. And Trump has by and far the evangelical conservative vote locked up, because even though he doesn't claim to be a Christian, they think that he represents their values. And so it's very interesting. And I'm saying to them, while they're choosing Trump, his policies against, I mean, he's talking about deporting you day one.
Right.
But they seem to just look past that. I think they like the bluster, the strongman persona. Very interesting. But I let them talk freely. And then I had multiple classes. One of the classes, they said, "Well, Professor, who would you vote for and why?" When I finished, it's like, I'm laughing because they never heard a lot of what I said. And I'm pointing this out to say that this is a campaign of misinformation where people are just like, I like him. I don't know why I like him. I know Black Christians who say this, I like him. I just like him. He just speaks his mind. What I said, but you don't know his policies, how they would harm and hurt you and those that you love. And so I just think some people are misinformed. There's a campaign of misinformation, or they just choose to ignore things just because they want to, or they like, it'll work out. He's got to be the right person. And then you think back 4 years ago, was I better off? And then you somehow you don't remember the stats. And if you look at the stats bear out that the economy is much better than it was right now than it was then. But I mean, that depends on what you choose to see and focus on. Yeah.
There's that Corey Tower that you see right when you pass the Grady Bend.
Yeah, just asking that question. Are you better off?
Yeah, and I always wonder, because you see certain things on there. It's like, who sponsors this? Because some of the stuff seems very one-sided. So it's like, I wonder who sponsors.
We're that battleground state. We're that money. I saw Kamala boards lighting up on both sides of the connector today, and then I saw the Corey cigarette tower. I saw are you better off? Sister LaVon Rice is on. She says, "Good evening, Bible Way family. This is my sister from Imani Church who helped raise our children as babies. She always has a warm, special place in my heart." Sister LaVon Rice, so glad that you're on here. God bless you and your family and the Imani family. Had a chance to see Pastor Michelle Humphrey, Minister Tony Fleshman. They came here for a conference a few weeks ago and had a chance to share dinner with them. So what a blessing. Yeah. Anybody else got something on your mind? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that some people that I heard from that are in support of Trump, they said that he's a great businessman. And so he's a great businessman. So he would definitely fix our economy. And I was like, what? So that's just like going to get, Jay-Z or somebody and say, he's excellent at, being a singer. Or Usher say he's an excellent singer. So since he sings so well, he can orchestrate something for our country.
So you can Google him and his businesses, which are the multiple failed business, multiple lawsuits, and Google Mark Cuban. It takes Mark Cuban to talk. Mark Cuban says, "I'm a real billionaire." It takes Mark Cuban to talk about Donald Trump. That's a farce. I do hear the same thing that, he's a businessman. He's a con. And that's why he was convicted 34 times. The art of the deal is really the art of the steal. There's really no truth or validity that's not me hurling insults. Google it. People don't want to read the facts. I mean, he has so many unsettled so many unsettled lawsuits from people he stole from, that and failed businesses, bankrupted businesses. I just listen to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban calls the roll. He produces the receipts for people who really want to know. That's just not true. Tax cuts for billionaires is not a viable economic policy. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. And so, I mean, that's just a farce. If you choose to believe it, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I just on my timeline, they're always talking about how their 401k was much blossom, Trump's. So I went back and looked at my 401k, and I'm like, actually, I did better this year under these. Yeah, from year to date, I'm like, I did better this year than I did under Trump. So I don't know what they're talking about. I think they just be throwing stuff out there.
Well, there's the perception and there's the facts. That's what I said. Google it. I mean, I said something yesterday, and I gave the source of it. Vanity Fair, where he said that Abraham Lincoln should have settled the Civil War and he should have let the Southern states keep slavery. He actually said that. Sure. So for these black men in the barbershop talking about you going to support him, he want to leave you in slavery. I mean, he said it. I mean, they're playing this commercial over and over about Kamala supporting sex change for prisoners. That's a policy that was in practice when he was president. I mean, it's just you got to see through the smoke screen. I mean, I just see a person for who they are.
But
I
Pastor, that's
believe.
on both sides of the aisle.
Go
I'm
right
like,
ahead, lay it out there.
I'm like, but my thing is, we make the Democrats out to be saints, and we all know
I'm
that
not.
they're not.
I haven't said any.
You
But
know,
for
I
the
mean, no,
for the
not
record,
you. I'm
for the
not you.
okay.
I'm just
Thank
saying
you.
in
Thank
gen.
you.
I
Yeah.
mean, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying in
Yeah.
general. When we
Yeah.
speak in terms of politics, we speak so
Yeah.
binary, like one side is evil and the other side is good. And my thing is, the Democrats do just as much dirt as Republicans. It's, and as we've, I mean, one of the things that people say, and I do believe it, Republicans kill you fast, Democrats kill you slow. I mean, it's like we really sit here and think that the Democrats are just like the best thing ever. And I'm like, there's
I
so
don't.
many. I mean,
I,
even with Biden, I mean, they call him Jim Crow Joe. So I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he has some,
So I
racist
don't.
stuff in
I
his past
agree
as
with
well.
you.
So
I agree with you about Democrats, but I think it would be great for you to lay some examples out. I mean, I think there are
well,
many. I agree with you.
yeah. Well, I
One of
mean,
my examples is that I lost friends over criticism of Barack Obama. I voted and supported for him, but I was critical over
mhm.
several things that he did in office. So I'm agreeing with you. I don't
Well,
think
I
any.
think
Yeah, go ahead.
well, yeah, I mean, I think that, with Kamala, I mean, people are looking at her record from when she was AG and in California, as well as
Mhm.
when she was um, San Francisco DA. And, and her record, and this all came out, back in 2019 when she ran, and how, that she was accused of keeping people in jail beyond their time to help fight those wildfires out there in California. I mean, there are folks who, people, that's the narrative too, why some black men don't support Kamala, is that, and she even said something recently about she, was great at sending people to jail for, marijuana violation, when she, got on the Breakfast Club the last time around saying that she smoked weed. So you're throwing people in jail for smoking weed for something that you also done. So, I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot of hypocrisy on both sides of the aisle. I mean, I was somewhere yesterday and, the thing came up about Obama and how when he was president during during the crash back in 2008, and how he chose to bail out banks more than he did helping, Main Street, and how this one person was talking about how he ended up losing so much because of Obama's policies during that time, and how it had a personal direct impact on his life, And so there are a lot of people who talk about how a lot of especially Black Americans, how we lost a lot of wealth during the Obama administration because most of us had our wealth tied up in our homes. So when you lost your home through foreclosure, you lost all that equity that came along with it. And that was under a Democrat, and as I brought up last week, the whole thing with NAFTA, that happened under a Democratic administration. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we can't only thing I ask all the time of anybody when you're talking is, just to be honest about things. Like, I get it. I know most people on this call all support Kamala. And I'm, for one, believe that the only reason we support her is really because, people hate Trump. Because I don't think, like, if Kamala had to go up against any other Democrat, which she did in 2019, I mean, she finished at the bottom. I mean, she had to drop out. It's like we speak of talking about people forgetting. I think we forgot that. I mean, she literally dropped out, and her campaign was chaotic, and it's like all of and then I keep saying, I mean, and I'm sticking to this. She did not go through the primary. I mean, the normal primary, and we talk about Republicans destroying democracy. I mean, what do we call that when Democrats decide that they're going to just boot out the person who was elected by voters to be the Democratic nominee and install someone different from, who voters chose? I mean, I just don't see. I mean, I'm asking you all, can you all honestly say if Republicans would have done that, if would you all been outraged about that? If Republicans had done the exact same thing that the Democrats did with Biden, I know we would have been screaming about that, saying that it was undemocratic.
Well, before we move on to that, can you tell me some criticisms of the other side? Because your whole argument there was just one-sided to me.
I didn't
And
need
I
to
would, I
present
would, I
the
would
side.
go as far as racially put it, that it's racially motivated, but I won't. I'll leave my opinions to myself for that.
I don't,
But what I'm saying is, what are your criticisms of the other side? Because
Pastor
what it
Monty
seems
asked
like to
me.
me is that you're one-sided though. You said that it's that Democrats are just pointing out, like we're acting like we're angels over here, and then you say like you making the Republicans like they're evil, when that's not the case at all. We're just calling a spade a spade. You just
we-
kind of look at what is
Yeah,
happening
well,
right now. We have a
well,
criminal on the ballot. The bottom line is he has been convicted, and we got people in jail right
okay.
now that cannot even vote, that have felonies just like him. So how is it that he can run for office? You're pointing out all these things that Kamala Harris
No,
has done,
Shannon,
but
be
what I'm
honest,
saying
Shannon.
is,
No, Shannon, be honest. Be honest, because like I said, let's be honest. Because Pastor Monty asked
oh,
me
I'm
about
always honest.
Democrats.
I
Okay,
And
don't I
no,
okay,
don't
but
care
guys,
who
guys,
you're
guys.
around.
okay,
Hello,
Campbell.
hello, hello, hello. Can I jump in? Can
Shannon,
I jump in?
Shannon,
Can we?
Shannon, you
Wait,
take
wait,
things so personal. It's not about you personally,
guys.
and I'm not here.
Oh no, I'm not taking it
Yeah, go
personal
ahead.
at all.
You do.
Santero, Shannon, can we both like give our parts without the cutting each other out, because it makes it
Oh
hard for
yeah.
everybody else
And
hearing. So
no, and I'll
let's
yes,
yeah.
and Kathy, and to that point, I don't need to present the other side because the other side has been presented. Pastor
Right.
Monty asked me specifically about the
I did.
Democrats, and
I
that's what I
did.
Right.
gave, Shannon.
Yes.
So I was answering his
I did.
question.
That's
We've
true.
heard the other side, and we
Yeah.
hear the other side all the time. This is supposed to be a dialogue, but it's
Yeah.
not
Yes.
about us screaming at each other. It's about you believe what you believe, but there's also a different point of view. And that's all I present is a different point of view. I
Yeah.
never said I'm voting for Trump, but but I'm just saying that the Democrats
Issue.
they also have their issues as well. And I stand by that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. When we get to the poll, we just got to weigh it, decide which one outweighs the other. I mean, but so many times that we like to denigrate people when they choose to have a different point of view that's different from yours. And I'm just saying that we are not all monolithic and we all don't think the same.
Yep. And to answer your question, Shannon, Santero, I think that yes, if the shoe on the other foot and the Republicans switched out their candidate at the 10th hour, yes, we'd have the same issue as well. Also, for me, I hear Shannon's point with the fact that I'm looking not in this election for me. I'm looking at the fact that the person who is the other, like for instance, okay, so just say Trump, right? It's not even about the Republicans versus the Democrats for me right now. It's the fact that we are going to elect a person who is of such low moral compass, so a person who has just allowed so much, I don't know, just kind of deterioration of what we hold ourselves as a democratic country, who has just caused so much turmoil in the democratic process over the past. To put that person back in, it's like, if they had switched him out, if both parties had switched out their candidates, I think this would have been a better situation to say, okay, are the Republicans versus the Democrats? But right now, I think for a lot of people, it's really person versus person. And it's really, you know what, I don't like how they did this, but I'm glad they did it because Biden was probably way too old and was not going to do well anyway. And she was the only viable candidate that was going to be able to go in because of her position and because the money could go to her. And the fact that we don't want Trump. I don't think at this point for many people, it's so much that I'm anti-Republican. For me personally, Kathy Wilder, I'm anti that other person who is not someone that I would want my children looking up to as the president of the United States. When William and Eden look at President Obama, even if he was a white man, if he goes into an arena, the respect that he gathers, the things that he says in public isn't something that I'm going to want to switch the radio from. if Trump is there, I have to kind of, because he becomes the bully, he becomes the person who teases, like the stuff we tell our own children not to do, he represents it, and he is going to be the top man in the country, right? So for me, and I can only again speak for myself, this is not about Republican and Democrat, because really they're both the same side of this, they're different sides of the same coin. They tell you whatever they want to tell you to get in there, and then they do what's on the agenda anyway, and we have nothing, right? The average person, yes, our vote counts somewhat. The electoral part kind of creates an issue, but at the end of the day, when the president goes in there, if we haven't voted for House and Congress, the president don't have as much power anyway. The executive body does not have that much power on its own, right? But for the representation factor, I don't want to vote for somebody that Trump is going to be I don't want to vote for a person that has the persona and the characteristics of Donald Trump. So yes.
So go ahead. Yeah, I'm glad, Santero, that you shared what you shared. I think it's fair. I think it's valid. Everything that you shared. And if I were on a stage with you, I would not interrupt you, because everything you said is valid. I think about Kamala and about Democrats. It's just the reason I wouldn't interrupt you if we were on a public stage is because at the end of the day, if we aired all of the dirty laundry, and there's dirty laundry, I would agree on both sides. I would still end up kind of where Kathy was. It's like, there's no comparison for me when I think about it. And so I don't so much talk about supporting Democrats as I talk about why I can't vote for him. And so, but I think the perspective you shared is what I asked of you. And so it is valid. It is fair. I'm glad you shared it. And there's more that could be shared. One of the differences about me, some of you remember Jack Patterson, who was one of the reliable conservatives. And one of the differences between he and I when we would debate was that he could not bring himself to criticize Republicans and conservatives. And I was telling him, I'm never that person. Nobody is beyond criticism. I don't care what party or what person. To me, what's most important are our interests. You don't vote party over interest. You don't vote person over interest. It's our interest. And so I just remember, that there would be glaring things on the sides of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, glaring things on both sides of both candidates. And I could criticize them no matter who they were, where they were, but he couldn't do that because he felt that would be, turning his back on conservatives and Republicans. And for me, nobody's beyond criticism. And so you could go back to any Democratic administration and I can point out lies that they told. I mean, when we go back to Clinton said, I'm going to treat Cubans and Haitians equally. He ran on that. And when he got into office, he did not do that. He continued to deport Haitians. And so I could go on and on about that. I think that you're absolutely right on some of the things you're saying. And I was listening, I was the guest of Alicia at the church. I would join Lula and some others for the CARE dinner. This is the Council on Muslim, I don't have the actual acronym down, but some of you are familiar with the acronym CARE, C-A-I-R. So we were at the dinner and the keynote speaker was a woman, a Palestinian activist out of New York City, Linda Sarsour, who I follow on social media. And I connected with her at the conference, the South African conference on apartheid in Palestine. I connected with her. We met, we bonded, and we connected again at the dinner. And what's interesting is that in her keynote, she had to address a room full of people who don't want to vote for either candidate, in particular the Democratic candidate, because at the Democratic National Convention, they wouldn't even allow Palestinians on the program to have remarks. They let Jewish people make remarks. They wouldn't. And so you have in Dearborn, Michigan, enough Palestinian American people to sway that swing state. And so she was trying to address in the room that night with hundreds of people there, what are you going to do? So you don't want to vote for Kamala, but what are you going to do with your presidential vote? Because you need to understand strategy. You may not like her, but you got to understand this election is a stepping stone somewhere. There has to be a policy that eventually addresses. And I'm really giving this as an example of a bigger picture that this emphasizes to me what Centero, what you're saying is that on both sides there are issues and problems. That's why I describe my vote as a chess move. It's not the perfect move because there's not the perfect candidate. And emphatically, I agree with you, Centero, about the fact that I don't think Kamala Harris would have made it out of a Democratic primary. I think it's luck that she ended up where she was, that Biden had the debate he had. I think it's pure luck. I don't even understand it. She would not have been my choice. She would not have been. I'm agreeing with
How do you know that's not the divine providence of God?
I mean, I'm sure there are people who are arguing that, but Centero has a good point. When those of us who have these backroom conversations, you know, why is it her? She happened to be in the right place at the right time. Biden said, if I run, I'm going to pick a black woman to be the vice president. He did. He said, if I get a Supreme Court pick, I'm gonna pick a black woman. He did what he said. So she happened to be there, but I do agree with she would not have won in a primary system. She would
that might have been her Moses moment.
And Pastor,
that might have been her Moses moment.
And you know, ultimately, that's what like irks me so much. Like it really irks me so much. Like the fact that I was like, so you take someone who literally finished at the bottom when she was on stage with all of these other Democrats from across the country, you know, and I know they even have to be irked by that, you know? So I think about that a lot, you know, I really do. And then I thought about the fact, I'm like, either she's the luckiest person alive right now for her to lose a Democratic,
I don't disagree.
I was like, she literally has to be the luckiest person alive.
I don't disagree.
That's what I think about her.
I don't disagree.
That reason, I'm like, no, cannot support someone like that.
I don't disagree. Yeah.
So I mean, I get it. I know it's a binary system, and it basically comes down to the Democrat. I mean, whatever, her and Trump. But I guess my slogan is I'm not with her or him. So it is what it is, and I guess I will be a third party voter in this election.
So it's interesting you said the third party, because one of the things my global students find fascinating about American politics is the write-in vote. When I told, you know, I crack jokes with my students, and so they actually thought it was a joke when I said you can write in anybody's name, including yours. But you can't. Yeah. I mean, Jill Stein is on the ballot. There are others on the ballot.
Yeah. So well, I was going to say Jill Stein. Jill Stein has been, you know, receiving a lot of, I mean, especially, I don't know if you all saw that Breakfast Club interview with Jill Stein and Dr. Butch Ware, and they had Angela Rye on to, I guess she was there to kind of interview them, but she was more so there to try to attack them, but they held their own, and Angela actually came out looking crazy. She was, to me, you know, a lot of people criticizing Angela Rye after that, you know, after that interview. I don't know if y'all saw it, but you know, it was worth watching. I mean, I thought it was a really good interview, and it made me kind of look at Jill Stein like, you know. But I think a lot of I was listening to something today, and they were talking about the Arab American vote and how some of them are, you know, strategically they're giving their support to Jill Stein because of what's happening in, you know, in Gaza, in Israel. So, and I know just one of the people they interviewed, this was, I forgot if it was The Daily or Code Switch, one of those two shows. So
I like both of those. By the way, I like both of those shows. Both of those shows.
Yeah, I love both of those. And so they were interviewing people from the Arab American community, and you know, which you're supposed to do. They interview people with different points of views about whether or not they should support Harris or Trump. And this one lady, she was just making the point that she wants the Democrats to know that if they do lose, she wants them to know they lost because of the Arab American community. Like
they're saying that, they're saying that.
She was like, she feels so strongly about the genocide, you know, that's happening over in Gaza, that she wants the Democrats to know, you know, and like their whole thing is they're not going to stay home. They are going to vote. They're just not going to vote for, you know, for Harris or the Democrats.
And that could cost the election. I mean, because Michigan is a swing state, and 100,000 Palestinian Americans did not vote for the Democratic candidate in the Democratic primary. And thank you, Minister Lula. She put in the chat that the acronym CAIR, C-A-I-R, is the Council on American Islamic Relations. There were 650 people at the dinner. And I just think it's instructive that there are people who stand on principle that they can't vote for either candidate, including Kamala. And we've had one actually on our broadcast, Kafia, and I serve on several groups together that focus on the ceasefire in Palestine. And she's a Black woman who came on here and said, I will not vote for Kamala. I mean, some of you may remember that. So people are, I don't spend time, attacking or criticizing. I understand that and I respect it. But at the same time, I talk about my chess move and why it's a chess move. And Linda LaSure, the keynote person, knew she was speaking to a room of people who felt like Santero just described, that they can't vote for her. But she says, you need to think about what your vote is going to do, because it has to be a long-term strategy, which is part of how we got here. Conservative Republicans have played the long game, and now they have the court. And we have a race that's much closer than it needs to be, I would argue. So we are out of time. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
No, you got time. We got 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I totally didn't realize it. I just parked my car. I was just wondering, just overall, because something I was listening to, I think I guess it was today, but basically how the Democrats, when they are speaking of long game, that's what made me think about it. But the fact that the candidates, it's like they don't really have a succession plan. And I think that's one of the, with the whole, everything that happened with Biden, it's like y'all really didn't really have a succession plan. And that's kind of, I feel like we're boxed in, to be quite honest. And it's like, I don't know if you all might feel the same way, but it's not, I just think that Kamala is not the strongest candidate. I'm not going to be convinced that she's the strongest candidate. And I just think that was who they had, and not, and like there was no strategy, no planning, no type of, and we get mad at Republicans because they do come out with something like Project 2025, but it seems like they're thinking down the road. So are Democrats doing the same?
Yeah, I think that you have a great point, and this is the hand we've been dealt. That's why I go back to my analogy of a chess move. I don't think Kamala expected this, Joe Biden expected this, Democrats expected this. We've already, I think we agree that she would not have won a primary, and she didn't win the primary, and she wouldn't have won the primary. When I say the primary wins, they were running and Biden was elected. But it's the hand we're dealt, and when you're dealt a certain hand, and some people might even argue divine factors, some people might call it luck. But I think because we are where we are and so much is happening in our world and in our nation, there's too much at stake for me not to engage and not to vote and to have a strategy behind my vote. And that's why I call it a chess move. I keep coming back to that. It's not a Valentine. I know as much about Kamala or more than anybody else. I lived in the state of California. I followed her career through the Senate to the vice presidency. I know a lot of her personal details of her life, her relationship with people in California. I mean, there's a whole former mayor of San Francisco. But it's the hand we have, and so I think that's where we have to make a decision. And people are making those decisions based on conviction, and I respect that. I really do. Yeah. As I close in prayer, I'm remembering members of our congregation who are critically ill. Some of you are aware of them. Some of them are fighting cancer battles. But yesterday, I had this chance to see Catherine Smalls at church. And Catherine Smalls, I've been praying with her and talking to her. She's been battling kidney failure. And she came up to me, she said, Pastor, I coded. I was gone for 5 minutes. They brought me back. And she's telling me this after church. And I said, let me pray for you right here. I anointed her and prayed with her. And then I said, Catherine, how'd you get here? She said, I drove myself. So I walked with her to her car, and I was she said she missed the people of God and she wanted to be there. So I want to remember her and all of those with special needs and concerns. There are those with travel coming up. Everything we talked about in terms of the tension in our world, the tension in our nation, the election will have an impact on people. And people are still recovering from the storms. Some people are still missing, believe it or not. And so there's just much to be concerned for and to pray about. But the privilege we have is to cast our cares upon the Lord and to walk by faith and not by sight, and to seek comfort and solace in a source that is greater than us. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. So let's pray together. Lord God, I thank you for such vigorous debate and discussion back and forth. I thank you for the passion. I thank you for the expressions. I thank you for iron sharpening iron. I even thank you for the disagreement. Hopefully we can learn to disagree agreeably. I thank you for the different opinions. I pray that we will learn, we'll seek out the facts. We will encourage people to be engaged, to stand on their convictions. I pray for the outcome, that humanity will be benefited as a result of it. I pray for your will to be done. I pray for the motivation for us and for those in our circles and those with whom we have influence, to get them to the polls, to help them understand what's at stake so they can develop a conviction and a strategy that works for them and that works for humanity. I pray. I offer this prayer for Catherine, for Gail Martin, for so many others, for my dear sister Diane Cunningham, so many others, Sister Gloria Lyons, so many on my prayer list that I lift up daily. I lift up those with travel, those with particular concerns. We thank you that we serve a God who's still able to do exceeding and abundantly above all that we could ask or think, according to your power that works in us. We give you thanks and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me. I'll be on with the pop-up in the morning around 7. Don't miss it. Thank you all for being here. See you next week. God bless you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.